unveiling the shocking truth. The curse of inbred women haunting America's bloodlines forever. In a hidden pocket of America, where shadows seem to cling, whispers float through the air like fog. The rumors are thick, wrapping around townspeople with an icy grip. They speak of a curse, an inexplicable, unearthly shiver that sends chills down spines and tightens throats. The hushed tones convey a truth too gruesome to bear. Women with roots twisted by generations of inbreeding, left to wander the earth, carrying a legacy of abnormality and pain. Their eyes, wide and searching, reflect something tragic, something wrong, an ancestral echo haunting their very being. The first case? A woman named Eliza, once beautiful and lively, now walks these quiet streets, her skin a sickly shade of gray, her movements unnatural. Locals say she holds a power, a dark knowledge buried in her distorted soul. They claim she shares dreams, dreams that twist reality, revealing hidden truths and wicked secrets. But as fear grips their hearts, no one dares to approach her. They cross the street to avoid her, whispering tales of how her stare feels like needles piercing skin, a chilling reminder of a bloodline drenched in sorrow. And then, there's the well. The local well, old and moss-covered, stands at the heart of town. Some say it's cursed, a doorway to horrors unseen. Children dare each other to spit into its depths, but no one speaks of what truly lies beneath. The echoes of years past, the faint cries of ancestors calling out. People report strange happenings, flickering lights, sudden gusts of wind, and shadows that dart just out of sight. What binds these women to the well? Is it a curse, or something more sinister, a pact with ancient forces hidden in the darkness? As the gravestones in the nearby graveyard grow more crowded, mourners tremble before the chilling tales that emerge. The body of an inbred woman is said to have been found, her frozen form barely recognizable, eyes wide open in shock even in death. What truth did she grasp in her last moments? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And just as the sun dips behind the horizon, cloaking everything in darkness, Eliza's gaze sharpens. A chill runs down the spine of anyone who dares cross her path. The air thickens with expectation. What will she unveil next? What secrets lie buried not only in the town, but in her twisted soul? As the shadows grow longer, so does the mystery, one shrouded in fear and desperation, promising that the truth is lurking just out of reach. The night is young, and so are the dark tales waiting to be told. What happens when the veil is lifted? The night air crackled with an electricity that felt almost alive, a pulse that matched the racing hearts of those lingering in the shadows. Eliza stood near the well, her silhouette a ghostly figure against the moonlight. The stones around the opening were slick with moss, reflecting an unnatural sheen that sent shivers through the spines of onlookers hiding behind doorways and trees. And then, the moment everyone dreaded came. A sound, a sharp gasp, followed by whimpering. It pierced the silence like a knife. They turned towards it, their breaths caught in their throats. A child, maybe 8, stood at the edge of the well. He had dared to lean too close, curiosity draping over him like a shroud. The whisper of the wind seemed to beckon, coaxing him to peer into the abyss. "Tommy," one woman cried, her voice shrill. But it was too late. Before anyone could reach him, the boy fell. Time stretched into an agonizing eternity as he disappeared into the darkness below. A chorus of gasps erupted, panic flaring like wildfire. Hands clutched at each other, eyes wide with horror. The well had claimed another. "What if he has gone?" one man shouted, his face pale. "We need to get him back." But Eliza remained unmoving, a silent observer, her expression inscrutable. Was it indifference? Or perhaps a deep understanding of what dwelled below? Those who dared to approach her felt a strange pull, an unshakable bond tainted by fear and reverence. It was said that she could hear the echoes of the dead, whispers flitting through her mind like moths to a flame, but at what cost? As frantic cries filled the air, someone spotted the lantern flickering in the distance, dim but steady. The town sheriff was coming, and by the looks of it, he had a plan. Form a human chain, he called out, his voice commanding, stirring action among the frozen crowd. They scrambled, linking arms, racing towards the well, desperation hanging heavy in the air, but as they gathered, murmurs began to ripple through the group. Did someone catch a glimpse of movement down in the depths? A flash of something, wet and glistening? The townspeople stiffened, minds racing back to stories of what lay beneath the surface, the secrets, the despair, the very essence of the curse that loomed over them. Tales of lost souls, abandoned cries, the remnants of lives once lived and twisted by bloodlines tainted with inexplicable madness. In the madness, Eliza took a step back, watching as one after another they leaned over, straining to hear a child's cries. But was he still alive? Or had the well swallowed Tommy whole, claiming yet another innocent life? Just then, a tremor rippled through the ground, sending a warning. Even the earth felt the curse clawing at its roots. "Get back!" shouted the sheriff, but it was too late. A black shadow surged up from the well, tendrils of darkness reaching out like fingers of death, grabbing at anything and everything that came too close. The gasps of terror transformed into screams as panic crescendoed, humanity's primal instinct to flee igniting chaos. As the shadow thickened, enveloping the well and its surroundings in a thick darkness, Eliza turned her gaze toward the stars, eyes glistening with unspoken knowledge. Was she connected to this darkness? Was she a harbinger of the curse, or its ultimate protector? The townsfolk needed answers. They needed to confront the truth that had lingered far too long. But silence fell suddenly. The shadow retreated, disappearing into the night as quickly as it had come. What had just happened? What forces were at play? Eliza stepped forward, her voice ringing out through the lingering fear. It's time to embrace what we feared. The crowd fell silent, eyes wide with trepidation, clinging to her every word. What truth would emerge now? What bonds would be tested as they stood at the precipice of unraveling an even darker mystery? The chilling night was just beginning, and a reckoning loomed ahead. What horrors awaited them in the light of day? The air had thickened with an ominous quiet, the echo of screams dissolving into a fearful hush. Eliza stood there, the moonlight glinting off her intense gaze, a beacon amidst the darkness that had just receded. The townspeople were transfixed, a motley group of horror-stricken faces and trembling hands, still reeling from the shadow's brush with their lives. Embrace what we feared. Those words hung heavy in the air, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. What did she mean? Was it merely a call to confront the truth, or was it something deeper, a challenge to face the unspeakable? Suddenly, a whimper cut through the silence. It was faint but unmistakable. Tommy's cries reverberated from the depths of the well. The sound was an emotional grenade, jolting the crowd from its stupor. "He is alive!" someone yelled, hope and despair swirling in a dizzying dance. "We need to get him out." The sheriff, his lantern casting flickering shadows on his face, was already formulating a competing plan. "We have to drop something down there." But as he took a step closer, the faint glow sputtered, as if the shadow lingered still, ready to embrace them all with its malevolence. Eliza took a deep breath, feeling a magnetic pull towards the well. The well had always felt like a living thing to her, alive and breathing with whispers of sorrow. What if the answer wasn't just about saving Tommy, but about the dark lineage that clung to the very ground beneath them? Wait. Eliza's voice sliced through the confusion. The townsfolk turned, surprise mingling with distrust. "Before we pull him out, we need to prepare ourselves for what we might find." "What do you mean, Eliza?" "He's just a boy," shouted an angry man from the crowd, his fists clenched and his brow furrowed with frustration. But her calm demeanor held them at bay. "Tommy's not just a victim," she insisted. "The well, what it's taken and held, is part of us. Dark bonds created long before we or Tommy even existed." The sheriff stepped aside, losing the thread of order as murmurs swept through the crowd. There was fear in those whispers. Fear of what might come out of that well. Fear of facing a truth they had spent lifetimes burying deep down. "Let me go down," Eliza said suddenly. I can hear them." The voices. They can guide me. Gasps flew about like sparks in dry grass. No. It's too dangerous. You don't know what's down there. A woman cried, her voice shaking. Eliza met the woman's gaze, unflinching. Maybe it's time we found out. We've kept away from this for too long. What other choice do we have? As uncertainty hung thick in the air, the townspeople exchanged wary glances. Was she truly offering hope, or was she leading them toward an even darker abyss? With the once audible cries echoing from below fading into frantic whispers, Eliza approached the edge of the well, peering into the unfathomable darkness. The smell of damp earth and mystery wrapped around her like a cocoon. Then, without hesitation, she pulled a rope from her belt and tied it around her waist. Hold on to me. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, you have to pull me up. What if she was wrong? What if she wasn't ready to confront whatever lay waiting in the dark? But one thing burned within her, igniting her courage. They needed answers. They needed to know what cursed blood ran through their veins. As she descended into the bowels of the well, the darkness enveloped her like a blanket. Tommy's cries grew louder, but mixed with a symphony of other voices lost and pleading. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her like a leaden shroud. And then silence. The rope went slack above as the people waited, hearts pounding, minds churning. What had she found? Would they finally face the truth? But as the seconds turned into minutes, an unsettling question pierced the air, more chilling than any shadow. What if Eliza was too late? What if the well had claimed another? The night trembled, secrets clawing at the surface, threatening to break. The town held its breath, teetering on the brink of an unimaginable revelation. Eliza felt the rope slip beyond her grip, her descent into the well swallowed by darkness. The walls felt damp and constricting, a gothic embrace that tightened around her like remorse. As she reached the bottom, the air turned heavy, carrying an ancient bitterness. Shadows moved with her, whispering secrets only she could understand. "Tommy," she called, her voice echoing into the abyss. It resonated, mixing with the anguished cries of others trapped in the darkness. The well was not just a vessel of water. It was a crypt of echoes and memories, a mausoleum of despair. The cries grew clearer, more frantic, almost pleading. Through the inky blackness, Eliza felt fingers brushing against her legs, ghostly hands reaching out from the void. She steadied her breathing, pulling a tiny lantern from her pocket. Flickering to life, its weak glow cast erratic patterns on the walls, illuminating fragments of the truth. Tommy's figure became visible, crouched and fragile near the base of the well, wrapped in shadows. His eyes were wide with terror, but they also reflected a knowing too profound for a child. "Eliza," he whispered, his voice trembling. "They're here with me." "Who, Tommy? Who's down here?" He didn't respond directly, his gaze flitting to shadows beyond her reach. That's when the darkness stirred, forming figures that twisted into shapes Eliza had only glimpsed in nightmares. They grinned, their faces contorted into mockeries of human features, glaring at her with hollow eyes. "You shouldn't have come here," one hissed, its voice slithering into her mind. Fear gripped her chest like a vice. "You're not real," Eliza shouted defiantly, turning her focus to Tommy. "Forget them. We're getting out." But as she moved to grab his hand, the ground seemed to shift. Her feet sank slightly into foul muck, a grim reminder of the past buried in the well's depths. The shapes began to swirl around her. Murmurs grew louder, chaos echoing from the walls. Each whispered fragment held the weight of sorrow, blaming the living for the fate they'd tried to forget. "She brings the curse," floated through the air, repeated in echoing agony. "What are they saying?" Tommy's small voice was quivering, laced with fear, but also an unspeakable curiosity. "They're angry," Eliza replied, her throat dry as dust. "Angry we've left them here. Angry at what we've hidden." The lantern flickered, revealing more tattered dolls, rotting toys scattered like autumn leaves. Eliza recognized them instantly. Items from long-lost children, their stories buried under her own. The weight of connection crashed over her. These were children. A voice, clearer this time, rang out above the dissonance. "You cannot escape the truth." A shadow lunged closer, and Eliza flinched as it reached out toward her with skeletal hands, wrapping them around Tommy. "No," she screamed, lunging forward. But she wasn't fast enough. The darkness clawed at him, pulling him deeper into the choking shadows. Find the threads that bind, the shadows chanted, untwist them, or all will remain lost. Eliza's heart raced. Threads? What threads? As panic surged through her veins, she realized those were the very bonds forged by the horror of generations. Dark secrets intertwining the town's bloodline, the past mingling inseparably with the present. Desperation ignited within her. No, I will not leave you. She grabbed the rope tied around her waist, pulling it taut. The world above felt too far now, the townspeople waiting, holding their breaths. Move, Eliza. A voice echoed from above, but she felt everything unraveling, the fabric of reality slipping like grains of sand through her fingers. The whispers intensified, shifting from mournful cries to thunderous roars. Embrace the truth, or be consumed. The well will not let go. As she grappled with the reality of their collective fate, time itself seemed to stagnate. Eliza was faced with a choice: to fight against the tide of anguish and regret, or to confront a legacy that could drown them all. But something deep inside urged her to go further, to find the terrifying answers buried long before her time. The rope tightened, jarring her back to the moment. She couldn't let Tommy slip away. Tom was running out. The shadows beckoned, but now they had taken something precious, a child, a piece of history. With every ounce of strength, Eliza wrenched her body forward, ready to dive deeper into the well of horrors, ready to unearth the truth that could either save them or sink them forever. Did she have what it took to face the darkness head-on? Would uncovering the secrets of her ancestry be the key, or would it trap them in the very nightmare they sought to escape? The well seemed to roar with laughter, a mocking entity reminding them of the resolution that was still in question. What was buried underground could either liberate them or imprison them once and for all. Would Eliza be able to uncover the truth before it was too late? Eliza's heart pounded against her chest like a caged bird desperate for freedom. The damp air seeped into her lungs, heavy and suffocating, as she prepared for the unimaginable depths of despair awaiting her. Tommy's silhouette flickered in the dim light, a beacon of hope twisted within the thick web of shadows closing in. Tommy, she called again, her voice trembling yet resolute. She could sense the weight of those haunting gazes, even as the blackness swirled, coiling around them like a snake ready to strike. We'll figure this out. But Tommy's eyes, once filled with innocent wonder, now reflected a storm of understanding and fear. You don't understand, Eliza, he said, his voice hauntingly steady. They want to show you the truth is terrible. Then let me see it, she urged, swinging the lantern wildly, momentarily illuminating the edges of hopelessness that loomed like hungry vultures. Show me the way. A cacophony of whispers erupted, drowning her words. She comes to unbind the curse, they chanted, their voices a chilling chorus. But what will she bind anew? The lantern flickered again, casting ghostly light over an old clay pot, cracked and faded. Something inside glimmered, reflecting the lantern's glow, a shard of broken glass, perhaps? Her fingertips tingled with an odd familiarity. What secrets did it hold? Tommy, don't look away, Eliza urged as she knelt beside the pot. We have to press forward. Together. Another shadow leaped forward, a grotesque figure with claw-like hands stretching wide. The legacies cannot be unraveled without the price of blood. It hissed, its forbidding breath washing over her like ice. Eliza felt the rope around her waist tighten like a noose, pulling her back. Panic surged. No, I won't let fear take you. She clawed at the ground, grinding her nails into the dirt and muck, a desperate effort to hold her ground. In that moment, Tommy's voice broke through the din, soft and trembling like the flicker of the dying lantern. You have to remember, Eliza. It all connects: the well, the children, us. Her blood ran cold as flashes of memories stormed her mind, images of the town, stories her father whispered at bedtime, stories that always seemed to linger just beyond her comprehension. The curse? She whispered, realization dawning on her. Is it our lineage? Yes, Tommy cried, but it's so much more. You have to find the thread, Eliza, the one that wraps around the truth. As the shadows surged forward, she grasped the shard in the clay pot, its edge sharp against her palm. With each heartbeat, the walls of the well seemed to pulse, vibrating with the histories steeped within the earth. Cut the thread. The shadows screamed as one, their voices twisting with menace. Cut and bleed the truth for freedom. Eliza raised the shard, hesitating as visions of what was hidden clawed at her heart. Faces of the lost, children long gone, their despair echoing along with her own. She tightened her grip, feeling the warmth of her own blood drip onto the ground. No, no more, she proclaimed, her voice gaining strength. No more secrets. With a fierce scream, she dragged the shard across her palm, letting the blood seep into the earth, binding her action to the curse, to the shadows swirling around them. Tommy, take my hand. As their fingers intertwined, a blinding light erupted, illuminating the dark well in ethereal brilliance. The shadows shrieked, flailing and twisting as if caught in a storm. Would the truth bind them in despair or lift the veil of horror from the past? But now the choices were washing over her in waves. Was she unwinding fate or inviting turmoil? As the light flickered like a heartbeat, Eliza felt the well tremble, the air thick with anticipation. What would the light reveal? What twisted threads lay tangled in their bloodline that could either lead to freedom or destruction? She sensed it, the weight of the truth stirring, ready to explode forth. And in that knowledge, a deeper question took form. Could they truly reshape their destiny? Or would they be prisoners of a legacy they couldn't escape? The light dimmed, and for a brief moment, silence reigned. But just as fear gripped her heart again, a shadow uncoiled from the darkness, racing toward her. What horror awaited them both? Would the truth set them free, or would they be swallowed whole, lost forever in the nightmare of their ancestry? Light erupted, searing the shadows that had clung to the edges of the well like desperate souls. Eliza squeezed Tommy's hand tightly, her heart racing wildly in tandem with the flickering glow. For a heartbeat, it felt like they were suspended in time, braced against the inevitable upheaval coming their way. Tommy, stay close, she shouted against the tide of darkness approaching. The shadows writhed, howling like banshees, a symphony of agony and rage sharpening in intensity. They hadn't taken a step back. Instead, they lunged forward, desperate to reclaim what was being exposed. Eliza felt the warmth of her blood pooling against the earth, an offering to the restless spirits that had long ago sought liberation but only found more chains. Her pulse quickened. Fear melted into a swift current of determination. This was her moment to peel back layers of pain and reveal something real. The lantern dimmed again, and she clutched it with all her might. As the shadows surged closer, screaming in fury, the well seemed to inhale sharply. A low rumble echoed through the ground, vibrating beneath them like a warning. The truth will break you. A voice thundered, solid and dark, as if it carried the weight of generations past. You cannot bear its burden. Watch me, Eliza shouted back. I'll face whatever it is, and I will save you, Tommy. In that instant, the light brightened, and within its glow, long-buried memories flickered into life. Faces appeared, children's faces, longing and lost. They swirled around her, their wide eyes pleading, a chorus of anguish that crashed over her like a tidal wave. She recognized them, kids she had never known by name, but had heard whispered about in hushed tones. Each identity unfolded, each story tinged with sadness, the sacrifices made echoing through time. Do you see? A child's voice chimed, clear amidst the chaos. You carry our legacy, but you can't escape it until you understand. Understanding. The word hung in the air, heavy and laden. Could she truly grasp the echoes of sorrow lingering in her blood? Could revealing the truth wound her more deeply than the curse ever could? Tommy, do you feel that? She gasped, sensation rushing through her. We're connected to them. But just as hope flickered in her chest, a shadow lunged forward. A face shadowed in darkness emerged, a tormented figure, features twisted with rage. You dare disturb the past that lies sleeping? It snarled, clawed hands raised as if to strike. With every story you uncover, you condemn yourself. Without hesitating, Eliza stepped forward, thrusting the lantern between them. No, I'm reclaiming my story. I'll shed light on what was hidden, for them and for us. The figure shrieked, a terrifying sound that reverberated through the ground, resonating with memories she could almost grasp. Fool, the past is not meant to be disturbed. Eliza held her breath. The light brightened again, and she felt a rush of energy, powerful, electric. In that moment, she understood. It wasn't just about her lineage. It was about every soul entwined with hers who had suffered in silence, shackled by a curse that twisted their fates. With a surge of courage, she lifted the shard closer to instinctively cut another thread, her heart pounding like a drum. She would not let fear control her. She would face the horror that awaited. But the moment she clenched the shard, the shadows coalesced, pooling into a grotesque mass, eyes glowing with malevolence. Eliza's resolve faltered for just a second, and then she saw their faces again, the children, those lost to the curse. "I will break the chains. I will not be afraid," she shouted. As the shadows surged forward, threatening to engulf her, the ground trembled violently, as if history itself recoiled at the impending revelation. Would she uncover the truth, or would she, too, be swept away in the tide of despair? A chill swept through her, settling deep in her bones. As the shadows tightened their grip, she grasped the shard with fierce purpose. But would casting away the darkness lead to salvation, or awaken something worse? And with that, the ground beneath them cracked open, revealing a void yawning wide, a gaping maw of unknown horrors just waiting to be unleashed. Eliza felt her stomach drop as the darkness swirled and twisted, a living entity hungry for their despair. It was like standing on the edge of a precipice, knowing there's no way back. The jagged edges cracked and split beneath her feet, creating an invisible chasm that threatened to swallow them whole. Tommy's grip tightened around her hand, a lifeline against the chaos ready to erupt. "Don't let go," she shouted, her voice wavering with urgency. Each word felt like a fragile thread trying to stitch them to safety. The pulse of the earth thrummed in her ears, and for a moment, she believed the shadows shrank back, uncertain. But then they roared forward, a tidal wave of hatred, and Eliza remembered the child's voice, the legacy they shared. "We need to do this together," she whispered to Tommy, grounding herself in the connection they had. "Feel what they feel. Please help me understand." His eyes widened, alive with fear, but he nodded. The moment of unity awakened an unexpected strength. The lantern flickered violently, casting erratic patterns that danced across the chaotic mass. As Eliza raised the shard higher, the energy from the past surged through her, igniting something buried deep within. The faces of the children surrounded her again. They reached out with desperation, their fear mingling with her own. "Tell me," she cried into the void, the weight of their stories pressing against her heart. "What do I need to do?" The grotesque mass hesitated, and she felt its anger shift, morphing into something darker, a deep-rooted sorrow. "You awaken us," the tormented figure growled. "Each truth births a new wound. Can you bear the agony of the past?" Eliza hesitated, the implications of its words crashing into her. Was she truly prepared to delve into pain that had been hidden for so long? But just as doubt curled around her heart, she thought of the faces, the longing glances, the silent cries. "I can endure it. I want to ignore your pain," she shouted into the swirling abyss. "I'll bear it for you." The tension in the air shifted dramatically. The shadows hesitated once more, swirling around her, their ferocity pausing, their cries diminishing, replaced by an inconsolable whisper. They sensed her determination. With renewed courage, she plunged the shard into the earth beside the well, as if anchoring herself to the truth she was about to uncover. The ground quaked violently beneath them, as the lantern blazed to an intense brightness. Waves of energy pulsated through the darkness, rippling away like the shock of a thunderclap, and Eliza grasped Tommy's hand tighter, feeling his warmth reassuring her. Together, she breathed, and his hand squeezed back in silent agreement. The ground swallowed the light, dragging it into its depths, pulling loose fragments of history, shaking them from their slumber. The air crackled with an ancient electricity, overwhelming in its pressure. Suddenly, the wall of shadows split open, revealing once hidden truths that illuminated the faces of the forgotten, revealing more than Eliza had ever anticipated. Whispers filled her, shuddering through the marrow of her bones, pulling her deeper into the layers of grief and regret woven through her bloodline. Screams echoed, accompanied by laughter, a juxtaposition of joy and anguish that spun in her mind like a tornado. This was more than a curse. It was a tapestry of lives lived in unthinkable sorrow, buried secrets that connected them all. And just when clarity threatened to break through the storm, the tormented figure lunged again, fury rekindled in its grotesque features. You cannot comprehend the full weight of our legacy. It howled, as shadows coalesced into tendrils reaching for her. Eliza staggered back, a cold sweat breaking out over her skin. What have I awakened? She gasped, feeling the threat hiss against her skin. As she stood before this churning darkness, heart hammering in her chest, she knew the answer was lurking just beyond her grasp. The truth was perhaps more terrible than anything she could have ever imagined. And in that moment, as the shadowy figure loomed closer, stretching out claws eager to punish, she faced the choice: to succumb to the fear, or dive deeper into the darkness and finally face what lay ahead. Would uncovering the truth allow her to break the chains, or would it deepen the curse? In the thick of this mounting dread, the ground began to tremble again, and behind her, a faint voice echoed the soft cries of a child, beckoning her forward into the abyss. Eliza's heart raced, thundering against her ribcage as the child's cries echoed around the darkness. They were haunting, pulling, urging her to step forward into the unknown. No, not now, she whispered, trying to hold back the rising panic. But the shadows swirled closer, almost as if they could sense her fear. Stay with me. Tommy's voice cut through her cloud of dread, grounding her once more. Yet the shadows writhed like serpents, whispering secrets long buried, their slithering noise creating a symphony of agony that throbbed inside her skull. Can you hear them? Eliza forced herself to ask, her voice strained. What do they want? They want us to remember, Tommy replied, his voice a tremor of uncertainty cloaked with a desperate determination. But what if we can't bear it? What if the truth is too horrific? The thought clutched at Eliza's insides, squeezing until she felt lightheaded. Yet her resolve tightened like a coil. We can't let fear chain us down. They deserve to be heard. With a fierce energy boiling inside her, she raised the shard again, its shimmering surface pulsing in her grasp. I want to be afraid, she shouted into the abyss. I'm here for you. The dark figure recoiled, its features contorting in rage and despair. You speak as if you know us. You know nothing. It screeched, its voice dripping with centuries of sorrow. Eliza felt the weight of its fury pressing against her chest. She staggered, but refused to break. Just then, the child's voice rose clear above the chaos, gentle yet fierce. Help us remember we are lost. The moment those words hit her, a wave of understanding crashed over Eliza, flooding her with the unendurable pain of so many broken stories intertwined throughout generations. It was a legacy not just of sorrow, but of triumphs and failures, love and betrayal. No, she yelled defiantly, pushing back against the crashing tide. You will not silence them. Shadows erupted in fury, hurling tendrils like knives aimed directly at her heart. She could feel them, cold and relentless. They wanted to consume her, to drag her down into the depths of despair. But she kept her focus. Every breath she took anchored her to the present, tethering her to Tommy. Together, she breathed again, locking eyes with him. Show me. Around them, the shadows hesitated once more. The air shimmered with tension, as though reality itself held its breath. Then, like a magician unveiling a trick, the darkness began to peel away, unveiling fragments of a horrific past. Smoky rooms filled with muffled cries, abandoned toys collecting dust, desperate faces pleading for light. Eliza recoiled as vivid scenes washed over her, one worse than the next. Women trapped in cycles of despair, children crying out for love that never came, decisions made in dark corners wrought with anguish. Is this our legacy? Eliza gasped, her voice cracking under the weight of each scene. Is this what we inherit? Yes, your blood knows it. The tormented figure screeched, hunger gleaming in its shadowy eyes. You thought mere memories could exorcise us? The truth you seek is layered in pain and guilt. The ground continued to quake beneath her, angry fissures erupting as if the earth itself boiled with resentment. Eliza felt rooted to the spot, overwhelmed by what she witnessed. This wasn't just a haunting. It was a curse laid down through generations, a history no one dared face. As the tendrils twirled down, inching closer, she felt the heat of both fear and anger rise within her. but I will not let it own me. She yelled, finding a voice in the tempest. Not anymore. The shadows recoiled as if slapped, momentarily losing their grip on her, enough for her to see hope glimmering within the chaos. It was fleeting, almost like a mirage, but it was enough to spark a fire inside. Eliza turned to Tommy, whose face mirrored her determination. We have to accept the truth no matter how painful. Let us, Eliza, he urged, his voice rising. With a newfound strength, Eliza closed her eyes, summoning the flickering lights of the lantern's glow. It intensified as if fueled by her resolve. I embrace our history, she proclaimed. The love, the agony, it's all part of us. And at that moment, the ground quaked more violently than before, and the shadows shrieked in an anguish that paralyzed the air. Eliza felt a universe shift, a tipping point about to unfold. Was this the moment they would find freedom, or would the inheritance of pain swallow them whole? The shadows writhed, pulling back, preparing for one last assault. Eliza braced herself as the child's voice cried in her mind again, "You are the key." But to what? As she swayed, waves of uncertainty crashed over her. What lay beyond the threshold of dark truths, tangled in bloodlines and haunting memories? Questions echoed in her mind, relentless as the darkness pressed against her, and all she could think was how close they were to the truth and just how terrible it might be. Eliza stood in the eye of the storm, her heart pounding as the remnants of shadow twisted around her, snarling like angry wolves. The screams of the damned and the lost echoed within the vortex of darkness, a cacophony of despair that clawed at her sanity. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, desperation lacing her tone. "It's not what we want," the dark figure hissed, creeping closer. "It's what you must confront." Each syllable dripped with venom, saturating the air around her. Tommy grabbed her hand, his grip firm but trembling. "Eliza, breathe. We can do this." His eyes shone with a mixture of fear and determination that mirrored her own. The shadows surged forward again, tendrils darting towards them, sharp as knives. Eliza felt their cold grasp brush against her skin, urging her to give in to despair. But she stood her ground, her resolve igniting the spark of rebellion inside her. "No, you won't claim me," she yelled, channeling her inner fire. "I will uncover the truth." With that declaration, the air around her crackled. The lantern's light flared vibrantly, illuminating the surroundings in a warm glow. The shadows recoiled as if stung. In their retreat, the visions unfurled more intensely, revealing fragmented memories of laughter drowning in sorrow, whispers of love lost, and the echoes of choices made in desperation. Eliza was swept into a scene, a woman sitting alone, cradling a child that felt eerily familiar. Tears streamed down the woman's face as she clutched the child to her breast, whispering promises of protection, leaving an imprint in Eliza's heart. "Mom," she breathed, recognition dawning like a sunrise. The figure's eyes widened in recognition. "You are bound by blood. You cannot escape what flows through your veins." "No," Eliza screamed, the truth crashing down like a tidal wave. The weight of generations lay heavy upon her, but she could feel a new truth surfacing, a truth that could shatter the cycle. Each revelation clawed at her and yet ignited another flame inside her heart. "I refuse to be a prisoner of your past." The shadows twisted in rage, their grasp lessening, retreating into deeper darkness. But then, a piercing wail cut through the air, escalating into a terrifying intensity that threatened to rip apart everything she understood. "We are not free. We are not free. We are cursed," they cried as one, a haunting choir desperate for release. The ground trembled violently, a world unmooring itself beneath her. Wrenching from reality, Eliza fought for balance while memories swirled chaotically around her. She was dragged through the torment of every choice a parent made in desperation, every heart's ache echoing in the recesses of her mind. "Tommy," she cried, stumbling towards her protector. His presence felt like a lifeline. "We need to fight together, but how? This isn't just yours to bear, Eliza." Tommy shouted above the chaos, his voice rising like a beacon. "We face this as one. The legacy, you can change it." His words struck her like electricity, illuminating the darkness momentarily. "Together, then," she whispered, determination and fear swirling like a tempest within her. "Together," Tommy agreed, Squeezing her hand tighter, as the last remnants of resistance melted away, the figures pressed closer, their presence a dark wave crashing down. In a moment of blinding clarity, Eliza lifted the shard, feeling its power resonate through her veins. "I acknowledge you," she roared. "I see you. Your pain, your love, your voices, they matter." Then silence fell. The ground shook one final time, a rumble that felt like a heartbeat, a reminder they were alive. And then, like the sudden fading of an echo, the shadows fell away into a suffocating calm. "What just happened?" Tommy whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Eliza felt a pulse of energy shift through her. I think we've broken something. But what has left?" As she looked deeper into the darkness, a chilling realization washed over her. A voice echoed softly, barely a whisper, "You've freed us. But only one puzzle piece remains." "What puzzle?" she asked, dread curling in her stomach. The shadows stirred one last time, their cold breath washing over her. "The truth lies in the blood, and the choice is yours to make." The words hung heavy in the silence, leaving Eliza's heart racing as new questions flooded her mind. What truth would she have to face? And what choice would seal their fate? The danger wasn't over. Not yet. Eliza's heart raced uncontrollably as she stood at the precipice of the well, the echoes of countless voices swirling in her mind. After what felt like ages of darkness and doubt, she had finally faced the shadows of her past. The weight of their sorrow hung heavy, but now there was a flicker of something new, possibility. "Tommy," she called, her voice filled with determination as she gripped his hand tighter. "We did it. We woke them up. We didn't let them swallow us." The shadows receded, their murmurs fading like the last gasp of a dying wind. Suddenly, clarity washed over her, revealing a small glimmer at the bottom of the well, an ancient amulet, half buried in muck. Eliza felt an inexplicable pull toward it, a promise that this was the final piece of the puzzle they needed. "I think that's it," she breathed, pointing at the amulet. "We need to grab it. It's the last part of the bloodline's truth." Tommy's eyes widened with fear and awe. "But what if it's dangerous? What if it brings back the curse? We've faced so much already. We have to know." Eliza replied, her voice firm. "It's time to reclaim our history, not run from it." Their eyes locked, an understanding sparking between them. As she felt the weight of her ancestors pressing behind her, those who had suffered and those who had triumphed, she steeled herself, the amulet glowing faintly in the shadows. It was a call to action, a tether to reconnect her to the torn strands of her lineage. With a deep breath, she leaned into the darkness. "Hold on tight," she whispered, and together they descended into the well, breath held as they edged closer to the amulet. An electric charge saturated the air, crackling with potential and horror as Eliza's fingers wrapped around the amulet. A surge of energy cascaded through her, almost overwhelming. She could see the flashbacks, the joy and heartbreak, the laughter and the screams, all woven tightly into the fabric of her family's past. Each thread pulled at her consciousness, unraveling the obscured truth. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her, the shadows lunged back in fury, screeches of anger piercing the air as they coiled menacingly. "You dare disturb our slumber?" The dark figure bellowed, its twisted face appearing in front of her. "You cannot bear the burden of the bloodline, Eliza." "I am ready," she shouted defiantly, holding the amulet aloft. "I will not let your pain bind me any longer. This belongs to my family. It's time for the truth." A blinding light erupted from the amulet, illuminating the shadows' forms, peeling away their anguish to reveal their stories of love, endurance, and sacrifice. "This is the legacy you have denied." A voice descended from the light, whispering sweet freedom. The shadows writhed, desperate to escape, but Eliza felt the power of understanding rise within her like a tide of hope. With each heartbeat, she could feel generations of strength pushing her onward. Suddenly, the light poured through every crack and crevice, and the faces of all the lost children appeared together. They wrapped around her like a protective embrace. "We've been waiting," they whispered, as the warmth of their courage washed over her as the shadows started to dissipate. Their cries morphed from rage to despair. "No, you will regret this." Eliza turned to Tommy, ignited by determination. "We'll rewrite our story together. Let them go." With that, Their joined hands embraced the amulet, pooling ancestors' love and resilience into a circle of light. "We break the curse. We release you," they proclaimed, voices ringing out against the dark, shattering past boundaries that were never meant to confine them. The shadows shrieked one last time, arching back in a blaze of light. Eliza's heart soared. She felt the past finally uncoil from their blood, releasing each tortured soul tethered to the fear. The darkness unraveled completely, and in its wake, a gentle breeze drifted through the well, carrying with it a silence laden with peace. As she emerged from the well, light pouring behind her, the town bloomed in a new vibrancy. Tommy stood by her, sighed, eyes wide with wonder. Did we just release them?" Eliza nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks, a wash of relief washing over her. "We faced the darkness. We dared to understand. And together, we transformed it into light." The town felt different. The weight of despair lifted. The whispers of pain faded into joyful echoes. The lingering shadows that used to haunt them now turned to a warm glow of shared remembrance. They were forever changed, free from the shackles of fear, ready to forge a new legacy. "Let us go home," Tommy said, a smile breaking through the remnants of worry. And hand in hand, they took their first steps toward healing, embracing hope as a newfound path stretched ahead. And so, the night deepened, and the winds of change whispered softly through the town, ushering in a new dawn filled with the promise of truth, renewed love, and a legacy transformed. Now, if you haven't yet, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. And don't forget to smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Your engagement matters, and I want to hear your reactions and theories about this incredible ending, so flood the comments section. And lastly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.